Well, Flames fan, he did it. And to quote one of our good friends, Preston, that magnificent bastard Brad pulled off an enormous trade getting rid of Matthew Tkachuk. We're here at the ArmChair GM podcast. I'm Chris, along with Dylan as always. Let's get into it. Well, Dylan, it was quite a Friday evening. I had a good buddy of mine give me a call while I was sitting around the fire with family and having drinks and just having a great night. And I'll be damned if you didn't make my night a whole lot better.
No doubt. I was just sleeping. I work graveyard shift, so I woke up at like 11 p.m. BC time and looked at it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I like went back to sleep for a second just to make sure that it was like actually a thing. But yeah, we got Matthew Tkachuk moved out. He signed an 8-year, $9.5 million deal with the Florida Panthers of all teams. Who would have thought Florida, who was sitting at minus $3 million cap space then, and I think still is now. Yeah. And we ended up getting Jonathan fucking Huberdeau, like as if we get somebody who's actually got more points, like honestly is a better player than Tkachuk, like offensively and possibly defensively, but not physically. And not only that, but we managed to get like a top 2 defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar in the trade as well, and a future first round pick, and a little, prospect who's not, an amazing prospect, but he's got some top 6 upside, and that's pretty fucking awesome, man. That's a huge haul for basically Matthew Tkachuk and a 4th round pick. There's conditions on the picks, but either way, it's going to be a first coming our way and a 4th going their way. It's just which year.
That's right. Yeah, it's top 3 protected for that 2025. So if Florida happens to fall from grace in the next 3 years and they end up with the top 3, then that pick turns to 2026.
Yeah,
and so with the 4th going the other way as well.
Yeah.
It really blew me away. Brad Scott Cole, according to him in an interview today with Parker from the Flames there, he's got him sitting at a potential middle 6, which might be high in my opinion, but I mean, you never know. He's just starting his AHL career. So he's a young kid.
He's had one season in the AHL.
Let's get him up to speed with Calgary's system and see what he can do. I mean, worst case scenario, stays in the A. So what? Not a big deal.
Exactly.
Obviously, the 2 main pieces to get Weegar and Huberdeau for Tkachuk, knowing that he wasn't going to stay, is awesome. I think it's fantastic. I'm still kind of blown away by it. And you are right. Florida's sitting at almost $3.5 million in the hole for cap right now. So obviously they're not quite done with what their moves are going to need to be.
And somehow they managed to give away all of their defensive depth with one player. Like they've got Gudis, Forsling, and Ekblad, and Ekblad really likes to just get hurt.
Yeah, right. They've got Keith Yandel. They're paying Keith Yandel basically $5.4 million to not play with them this year or the year coming up.
Yeah,
that's horrendous.
Yeah,
it's horrendous. I didn't realize that's how his buyout was structured.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, then it drops to 1.25 after that for 2 seasons. But I mean, for this 1 year, I mean that's pretty much Huberdeau's contract right there, right?
It is. I mean, Huberdeau only makes $5.9 million this year. So let's get into that.
Okay.
The one downfall to this trade is there's lots of negotiation to be done still with the 2 players that we got. Because they're both pending unrestricted free agents next year. So it is a fantastic return. We get a couple of really, really solid players in the first round pick and a prospect, but we have to try and get these guys signed or extended over the next, 10 months or whatever, which is fine. It, unlike if Kachuk would have signed his qualifying offer, we wouldn't have been able to trade him or negotiate, really, I don't think, for the first few months of it. So we've bought ourselves a lot of negotiation time with a player who, of similar, skill level and upside. He's a little bit older, but that's fine. And we've also bought ourselves another 2 tradable assets should they not work out. If we can't get them signed, which I hope we can get both of them signed because they're both great players. But if we can't get them signed, we can flip them at the deadline. And I mean, what contender doesn't want to put a healthy package together for Jonathan Huberdeau, who makes 5.9? Let's say we hold half of that. That's 2.7 million dollars for a guy who's 90 to 100 points.
Yeah, I mean, he was second in points last year with 115.
Yeah, tied with Gaudreau.
Yeah,
and he also set an NHL record last year with most assists by a left winger ever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. And I think Uyghur is very underrated as far as I think he has, top defense, like top offensive defenseman. He can run a power play. He can be on a top unit, or even better, he could even be on a unit with Tanev, who can, cover for those odd defensive mistakes that he makes. But
yeah, I think, I mean, him bringing him in, I mean, he's obviously a top 4 at the very least. I mean, losing to Branson, obviously both you and I loved him as a player and what he brought to the team. But I think Mackenzie will actually, I mean, obviously softens that blow because, I mean, he's going to eat up those PK minutes, I would think, as well as you can add him to the power play. Like he can play both sides of that. And the guy's got a career at plus 77 as far as his plus minus. He's not a fan of goals being scored against him when he's on the ice, which I love.
Yeah, and that's, the last couple of years playing in front of Sergei Bobrovsky, who's the world's most iffy goaltender. He can certainly be really, really good for a stretch, and then he's just horrific for another stretch. So it's really impressive to be a plus 77.
Really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Obviously Huberdeau doesn't really replace Kachuk as far as on ice play.
I think he replaces Gaudreau.
He certainly replaces Gaudreau. He's got great vision. He's an elite passer and playmaker.
Yeah.
I've had him in the top 3 in that category for about 3 years.
I think he's a better passer than Gaudreau. Honestly, I think Gaudreau's a little bit better at shooting when he actually chooses to. But I think that as far as playmakers are concerned, like just pure playmaking, I do think that Huberdeau's a little bit better, and he's also bigger and heavier.
That's right. So he's not going to get manhandled and need to pass out of desperation, right?
Yeah,
those situations won't really come up in his game. I don't think like they would in Johnny, right? If he was getting chased, he would dump the puck off, and so there was a lot of those situations that I'm kind of glad are gone. To be honest, I mean, I like a tougher, stronger player. So I think I have high hopes now. As long as Brad can get something put on paper with both these guys, I think moving forward we're gonna have a great looking team.
I would love that, and I know people are gonna not like me for saying this, but that's kind of my thing, I suppose. I would not mind seeing him get a $10 million type of a contract, like ish, but somewhere between 9 and 10. As long as it's not 8 years. I mean, the one thing about, I mean, he's going to be compared to Johnny for his whole time here, most likely. But Johnny avoids physical contact a lot of the time, and Huberdeau doesn't. So Johnny's game, that's why I wouldn't have minded an 8-year deal with him, is because I don't think his game is going to fall as much as Huberdeau's might.
Yeah.
Once they reach 37, 38 years old. So I think maybe like a 6-year contract at 10-ish
I was
million
going to
dollars,
say
I'd be okay
six
with.
as well. Six was to me, that would put him at 36 at the end of that contract. And I think that's, and then
Perfect.
you start thinking about the 1-year deals after that, maybe 2 at most.
Yeah.
For half the amount or a third of the amount. With that, like we also have to keep in mind we are going to have to re-sign Lindholm, but that's another 2 years away.
And the cap should be rising, and also almost all of our contracts expire. I think all of our contracts except Coleman and Markstrom expire in 2024 or 2023.
Yeah, it seems so. Obviously, after next season, Luch and Huberdeau, as well as Trevor Lewis, which
Monahan.
And Monahan, yeah, and then everybody else is after that, except for Blake Coleman's. It looks like we have him until
2027, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2045. Got him for a long time.
So yeah, huge news, something to be excited about for the first time in this off season, because as a whole, us Flames fans have really had a bit of a difficult time, a lot of heartache and headache over the last couple weeks. So at least Tree Living's given us something to smile over. And hopefully he can give us some more to smile over with some extensions and maybe another trade. Quickly, I'm thinking we've got so many top 4 defensemen. Do you think that there might be something in the works to flip a top 4 defenseman now that we've got Uyghur? We could flip any of Rasmus or Hannafin or even Tanev or something for a top, another top winger to play with Lindholm and Huberdeau.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Who do you have listed in your top 4 there? You got Hannafin, Anderson, Tanev, Zadorov, and Uyghur, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I suppose Shillington, but I'm not sold on him being top 4 yet, and he's also not signed yet, but he's also an RFA, and look at what we just got for an RFA, right? So I'm not saying that we're gonna get that for Shillington, but I'm saying you can get like a number 4 defenseman worth of value for Shillington, likely.
Yeah, he's young, just came off a career year while being babysat by Tanev, so I think there's no reason why you couldn't get at least a middle 6 forward out of it.
Yeah. Or we could even switch him to wing, and then he could be a middle 6 forward.
I would love that. I've been clamoring for that for 2-3 years.
I know, that's why I said it, just to get you going.
You know what I love about, or one of my criteria for a defenseman is, what the main one is?
Playing defense,
being able to play defense. That's really it. It's
not falling over when you get the puck, or when you're going towards the puck, or when you slightly glance at the puck, or when the opponent wins a face-off, or when your guy wins a face-off, or
hey Oliver, the play's going the other way, why are you behind their net?
Anyways,
that's right. No, so it's been a good few hours. I've had lots to smile about finally. I honestly thought my buddy was just fucking with me last night when he called me, and he's like, "No, man, I'm being dead serious." I was like, "Good God, now I got to go look at it."
Yeah, right.
It was great. Yeah, well done, Brad. I'll give you the credit you deserve. Now get these kids signed, so as that we can keep you on as the GM moving forward. Not until you get them signed.
And make sure, if you like what you've heard and you're you've got some thoughts on the trade and thoughts on possible extensions or what happens next, make sure you give us your thoughts in the comments down below, and a like and subscribe.
That's right. Well, Chris and Dylan from the Armchair GM podcast, we're signing off on this one. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Go Flames, go.
Go Flames, go.